Welcome to Truth by Billie Beene Flash Update. Today's date is May 14, 2025. Time in Texas about 4 p.m. Thanks for hitting the like button. That helps my channel to grow. Some of the sources I'll use this afternoon: God in the Bible, Patriot Subscribers, Hal Turner, BREITBART, Redacted, Center Square. Some of the things we'll cover: President Trump, more bacon. Cartels and D.C. Estonia tries to hit Russia? Really? And the CCP has put some Trojan horses into our power grid in an attempt to take down the U.S. grid. Yes, our greatest enemies today are the CCP and the cartels. So let's begin with President Trump. More bacon. President Trump, after his visit to Saudi Arabia, made the first ever official presidential visit to Qatar, where he was greeted by the leader of Qatar on the tarmac, and Air Force One was also escorted in by Qatar strike fighter planes. And some of the things that are coming out of the meeting between President Trump and the leader of Qatar, Emir al-Talani, includes a defense agreement that was signed by President Trump's Secretary of Defense, Pete Hegseth. So the U.S. and Qatar are entering into an economic agreement, but also a separate agreement that provides U.S. military defense for Qatar. And President Trump has signed deals with Qatar to bring about the largest ever deal for Boeing. Qatar is going to be buying from the U.S. a total of 210 planes, 160 of which will come from Boeing. And the plane deal brings into the U.S. $96 billion. President Trump is also signing an economic agreement with Qatar, bringing into the U.S. economically $1.2 trillion. These agreements will result annually in U.S. jobs of 54,000 and up to 1 million jobs during the course of the agreements. So President Trump bringing more bacon. And we have this. There was a huge illegal criminal alien roundup in Washington, D.C. That was under the auspices of the Alien Enemy Act and involved ICE, Homeland Security, the U.S. Attorney for Washington, D.C., Virginia Corrections Department, FBI, ATF, DEA, U.S. Marshals, and the U.S. State Department regarding diplomatic security. So it sounds as if some of these arrests and notices could have been given to foreign diplomats. And it resulted in the direct arrest of 189 criminal illegals, and also notices to businesses and other offices that they're open for inspection. I suspect, since the U.S. State Department is involved, this involved some foreign offices. So that's going on. And now we have this from BREITBART. We have, yes, so this is something I've observed with my own lying eyes. Apparently, when you are a terrorist and you are operating in one country, you use a certain name. Then, when you move to a new country for new terrorist activities, you just change your name. And we see that going on with the leader in Syria, with whom President Trump met in Saudi Arabia. The first time in 25 years a face-to-face meeting has come about between a U.S. president and a leader of Syria. Now, when this individual was operating as under Al-Qaeda in Iraq and killing U.S. soldiers, he went by the name of Al-Jawlani. Then he moved to Syria, so he's now a jihadist and the interim leader of the Syrian government. They will have elections in 4 years. So now he changed his name to al-Shara. President Trump said the U.S. would see about dropping the sanctions against Syria. So that's going, would seek to normalize relations with Syria. So that's going on. President Trump is, and Syria is also open to signing the Abraham Accords, pursuing peace in the Middle East, and especially with Israel. So that's going on. And now we have this. Yeah, we just had this afternoon, about 2 p.m. Texas time, we have Estonia trying to hit a Russian ship. Say it isn't so. That's pretty amazing. So we have Russia, we have Finland, we have the Baltic countries, Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania. We have the Gulf of Finland. An Estonian ship tried to land armed troops onto a Russian oil tanker. The Russian oil tanker is named the MT Jaguar. And the Estonian ship tried to ram the Russian oil tanker and had a helicopter above it and tried twice to land armed troops onto the Russian ship. They also had an M-28 plane trying to block the Russian ship. Russia scrambled their Su-35 planes, and Russia was operating legally in international waters. Estonia had no legal basis to do what it tried to do to the Russian ship. And then the Russian oil tanker simply stayed on course. It had 2 Russian fighters above it, and Estonia finally gave up trying to board a Russian ship with armed Estonian troops. So that's going on. Coming out this afternoon is that we know our primary enemies now are CCP and cartels. It appears that China, using a product called solar inverter, that's used in solar products to switch from DC power to AC power. And recall, the U.S. government, as part of their green program, tried to, juice up investors buying solar panels in the U.S., and they require a solar inverter. Now it's coming out that a majority of solar inverters involved in both U.S. and European solar power grids come from 6 CCP associated companies in China, including Huawei. And Turner and Reuters is bringing out this information. Now, European power grid companies are also involved in this. Let's speculate a little bit. Could it be? And what's coming out is that these Chinese solar inverters contain a secret communication device that can be remotely controlled and put out bad information to the grid, whether it's US or Europe, and bring the grid down. And this has been investigated. Investigations are ongoing in both the US and Europe, and we can speculate, did these solar inverter Trojan horse communication devices have anything to do with that recent grid down event in Spain and Portugal and parts of France and Belgium? Just saying. So this concludes my flash. I love you, and I'll see you soon.